What if the same laws that move the universe also moved your users? Welcome back to Physics of Gamification, the podcast where science meets behavior design. I'm your host, Hakan Uzer, co-founder of MotivaCraft. We've talked about getting people to start, and we've talked about how to keep them from stopping. But what happens when they are moving, but they have stopped growing? You pour in more incentives, you increase the point values, you shout louder, and the speed stays exactly the same. In physics, this isn't a mystery, it's just a limit. Today, we are talking about terminal velocity. Picture an object in free fall. Gravity pulls it down, causing it to accelerate. But as that object speeds up, it begins to collide with air molecules. This naturally creates drag. Drag is a reactive force. It grows as the object's speed grows. Eventually, the upward push of that drag perfectly balances the downward pull of gravity. The acceleration hits zero. The object is still moving, and it might be moving very fast, but it's no longer accelerating. It has reached its terminal velocity. In your system, your rewards are gravity, but your user's habituation is drag. The more you reward a behavior, the more the brain normalizes that reward. It builds up a psychological air resistance. When your users reach terminal velocity, they aren't being lazy. They've just reached the point where your rewards are no longer strong enough to overcome the drag of their routine. Doubling the points won't help. To go faster, you don't need more gravity. You need to reduce the drag. I recently audited a system for a sales team that had hit a wall. They had a Friday sprint. Extra rewards for every deal closed before 5 p.m. At first, it was a rocket launch, but a year later, the Friday numbers were identical to Tuesday's. Management's response? Increase the sprint multiplier. They were trying to increase the gravity. The result? Zero change in behavior. The team had habituated. The extra rewards were now just the expected rewards. The drag of their weekly fatigue and the predictability of the reward had created a terminal state. They were falling as fast as a specific design allowed them to fall. This is effort theater. The designers were sweating, the budget was increasing, but the system was inefficient. In physics, if you want to go faster than terminal velocity, you don't just add more gravity. You can't do it. You have to change your aerodynamics. You have to reduce the drag. I'm sure you are now asking, how do we reduce the drag of habituation? And it's a very valid question. We stop using brute force rewards and start using leverage. We change the medium the user is traveling through. There are 3 ways to redesign your system's aerodynamics. First, cognitive drag. This is the resistance caused by a system that has become too predictable. When the user knows exactly what the pop-up will say even before it appears, they stop seeing it. The fix? Variable geometry. Tomorrow morning, don't change the value of the reward, change the trigger. Instead of points for every call, introduce a mystery milestone that only reveals itself after the 3rd successful interaction. You break the drag by making the brain recalculate the path. Second, emotional drag. This is the weight of feeling like a unit in a machine rather than a person. When rewards feel mass-produced, they feel heavy. The fix? Identity streamlining. Stop rewarding the task and start acknowledging the intent. Change a generic "good job" notification to a specific strategic move shoutout. By reflecting who they are becoming, the navigator or the architect, you reduce the emotional friction that slows down the long-term engagement. Third, the social drag. This is the resistance caused by isolation. In a solo system, the only force is your own motivation. When that flags, the drag is absolute. The fix? Induced current. Connect the user's progress to a teammate's mission. When their drop-off affects a shared team goal, the social stakes create a new kind of pull that brings them forward. You aren't pushing them, the team's momentum is pulling them through the resistance. Terminal velocity isn't a failure of motivation. It's a sign that your design has become too thick for the user to move through any faster. If you want more speed, stop looking at the reward. Look at the air. Look at the drag. Here's your challenge for this week. It's gonna be uncomfortable. I want you to find the most popular reward in your system. The one everyone gets. The one everyone expects. And I want you to kill it. Remove it entirely for 48 hours. Watch the reaction. If your users keep moving, that reward was just air. It was part of the terminal velocity. If they stop, you have successfully identified a core anchor. Your job is to find where the drag is hiding. Stop the effort theater of adding more gravity. Start streamlining the experience. That's it for this episode of Physics of Gamification. If you are ready to stop pushing and start streamlining, share this episode with a product lead who is wondering why their numbers have flatlined. I'm Hakan Uzer. Next time, we'll talk about Brownian motion. How semi-random touches in your design create a novelty needed to keep your users from settling into the routine. Until then, keep designing like a physicist.